Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We have the Civic pulled into the garage today because we are going to be doing a Y8 intake manifold swap onto our Y7 head. Now there's a couple things you're going to want to get before we do this, so let me go ahead and show you that before we jump into it. So first, obviously, you're going to want your Y8 intake manifold, and I'll get into the details of which one here in a second. You're going to want your gaskets. So this is a Y7 head, so you want the gasket that fits on the Y7 head. Up here on my part description, it actually says for a Y5, Y7, and Y8, so apparently they all fit. And then you're going to want to get the Y8, I believe it is, throttle body gasket, whichever one has those notches in there. That, I believe, is the Y8. There is my numbers. I will link all this stuff in the description below too, just to make it easier on you guys. But if you don't have those notches in there, I believe it will not allow it to idle correctly. So anyway, you're going to want to get the Y8 throttle cable, just because the Y7 throttle cable is a lot longer, and you really have to kind of rig it up to make it work, because it's going to be going to a different spot. You can see there it's kind of going to the side. This one actually mounts on the front side of it right there, so it just goes directly right to the front. So the shorter Y8 throttle cable is nice, but not, I guess, not necessary per se, but it'll clean it up and it'll make it operate better. You're going to want to get the throttle cable bracket that mounts on your Y8 intake manifold. So anyway, getting into this intake manifold, so this is a automatic intake manifold, which is preferred by me because on the manuals you have a sensor. You have a sensor that mounts right here. Well, when you do this swap, you don't need that sensor. So you need to do a plate block off, or a block off plate right there. And I'm sure you can buy one or make one, however you want to do it. So it's no big deal if you did get the manual and there's a hole there. Just figure out a way to block it off. Secondly, this is, I believe, a 99 Y8 intake manifold. Therefore it has, I'm not 100% sure what they're for, but it has holes for air right here, 5 holes right here that you're going to need to block off, or you'll have a big vacuum leak. So if you have access to a welder or somebody that welds, somebody that can TIG weld cast aluminum, go ahead and have them close those holes up there. If that is not an option for you and you really don't feel like going that far with this build, then I would imagine you could use JB Weld and it would be all right. But I just wanted to do it 100% the right way first and do that. So we're going to be using the Y7 throttle body, just the one we already have here. And also, one thing I almost forgot to mention is you're going to need some hose, because you're going to need to extend some stuff on there. So you want, I don't know, like 5 feet of 1/4 inch ID hose and like 2 feet of 3/8 ID hose. So anyway, I'm trying to be quick and simple for you guys, because you clicked on this video for a reason, to see the swap and not hear me talk. So I need to grind those welds down on my sealing surface of my intake manifold, but I'm not going to show you guys that because it's boring. So for you, we're going to jump right into getting all the old stuff out we don't need, which will be the air filter, the fuel system, don't let that intimidate you, not the whole fuel system, but just take the fuel rail off, you know what I mean. And then the intake manifold. But before we do that, we need to drain the coolant out, and we need to depressurize the fuel system. So I'll show you how to do that. All right guys, so we are up under the car to pull the fuel pump fuse to depressurize the fuel system. So if we look at our layout here, fuel pump is right here. So we're gonna go the second row and then 2 over. So that is going to be down on that end. This end, let me prop this light up. So if you look here, we're gonna hit that blue, man, the shadow. That blue 15 amp fuse right there. So let me take that out. All right, so there, you can see which one I took out. I believe that is the right one. So now what you want to do is take your key and crank the car over. And just do that to depressurize the fuel system. All right guys, so I'm actually going to go ahead and try to do this without draining the coolant. This big hose right here is your only coolant line, I am pretty sure. So I've got these like hose pinchers. I've got these. We're gonna try to pinch that hose and keep it from draining since it's like a high point on the engine. I'll link this down in the description. But let's go ahead and start removing stuff. So first things first, we'll remove this big air box. So let's go ahead and just start removing some stuff. This hose right here, we're gonna bypass. So we do not need this anymore. So you can take that off and get rid of it. Maybe. Another thing that's nice to have for these tough hoses are these hose pliers here. They really help you get down. Like they kind of help break those hoses loose and help you pull off the old hose. There we go. So this, you do not need anymore. This vacuum line off. Now I'm gonna go ahead and unplug my, actually let me just get this throttle cable out of the way real quick. All right, so let's go ahead and start unplugging things. Undo all these injector plugs. We'll go ahead and remove the fuel rail. Pop these. These are a 10 millimeter. I'm gonna unplug this to get it out of the way. And that. Wow, those injectors are dirty. I'm just getting this out of the way here. So I'm just pulling my whole throttle, or my whole injector rail, fuel rail out of the way and setting it over here. I am gonna clean all that crap off of there. But anyway, at the end of all this, I will go over all the connections. So right now, really just get your throttle body, fuel rail, and intake manifold as out of the way as you can. You are gonna spill some coolant, but oh well. All right, so make sure you unplug all the plugs from your throttle body. And then I'm gonna go ahead and take out, looks like 14 millimeter, four 14 millimeter bolts out of the top. 12. There's your throttle body. All right, I'm gonna remove this big coolant hose over here. So we are probably gonna spill some coolant, but oh well. All right, let's take this off. I'm gonna go ahead. Should have drained that coolant. We're still draining coolant out of there. Oh, that's awesome. I believe that's all of them. Oh wait, there's a bracket somewhere, I remember. So, there's a bracket right down from here that kind of sucks to get to, but we'll be all right. That's down at the bottom, and we're loose. There's some hoses down here I need to get off. They're just really in a bad spot. So these hoses down here are actually the two hoses you're gonna be replacing. So if it's easier for you just to freaking cut them hoses, have at it. There it is. All right guys, now we're gonna go ahead and remove this gasket, which will kind of suck, but make sure you get all of it. And you can go ahead and take this hose off and this hose off, because like I said, that's what we're going to replace. All right guys, so let me just say, getting that gasket completely cleaned off is going to be your hardest part of this entire thing. But anyway, we're gonna go ahead now and put our two hoses on that are gonna be under the manifold. One of them's gonna come up through the manifold, and one of them's gonna stay under the manifold and come over to the throttle body. So we're gonna take our 3/8 hose, our 2-foot 3/8 hose, and we're going to put it on this black box that's down here. And I just got a little hose clamp there because those little spring-loaded hose connectors are, they're just kind of a pain to work with. You can use it if you want, no problem. But I had these laying around, so I am just going to use that. All right, now I'm just gonna take this other hose. I've got a vacuum cap on here right now because coolant was coming out of there. All right guys, I lied. It's not quarter that fits. I've got some 5/16 here. 5/16 that fits better. So we're gonna go with that. Let's get her flopped out here. Oh yeah, that's a lot better. I don't know where I got that quarter from, but it does not fit. So now we're just gonna, this is just gonna run under. So I'm just gonna kind of bring that off to the side, right there somewhere. And then now we're gonna go ahead and get our gasket and our intake manifold, and I'll show you where I'm gonna run this. All right, so take your new intake manifold and run your 3/8 hose up through the middle like that. Just like that, and then this, I believe it's gonna go to that top port right there, but we'll hold off for a second. I mean, now it's easy from here. We're just gonna go ahead and start hooking everything back up. So let's go ahead and put our bolts on the intake manifold on. So the hardest bolt is gonna be that one down there in the middle. So have some patience with that one. Torque spec is 17 foot-pounds. And I'm gonna just kind of go in a crisscross pattern. All right, now we've got our throttle body. Let's get our gasket on here. Make sure you guys get all these little injector gasket things, injector cups out of your old manifold. All of mine stayed on the fuel rail except for one. So anyway, let's go ahead and put this back on. let's go ahead and run this up here. So guys, this here is the one that's going down to that little black box underneath your really trying to make sure it's not pinched. It's very easy to get pinched. Tempted to run it down and around here. Yep, that's what I'm gonna do, guys. I'm just running it underneath and along the side of it up here because I think it was kind of getting pinched running up through the middle. So that's just gonna go right there, and I'm gonna get a hose clamp for that. All right, guys, so the next one we're gonna deal with is this one that you have going to that water tube down there. So you have two ports on the bottom of your throttle body. You've got one here that I'm gonna call the front, and you've got one here that I'm gonna call the back. So this from your water tube is gonna go, make sure it's not pinched up. It's gonna go to the back port on this side of your throttle body. So we'll get a rough measurement in there. I thought I had my cutters on me, hold on. Cut that. Make sure you get a hose clamp. Don't cut it too short like I just did. How the freaking hell did I do that? Jesus Christ, dude. Be very careful. Be very careful to not cut that too short, because if you do, everything's coming back off. All right, guys, you can bring this fuel system part over here and put it right back where it was, which is tying into this. That's your fuel return. So where's my pliers? Now you should have a bolt somewhere that bolts this back in. You can put that back in if you'd like. So now you've got, what else? Your brake booster right here. You can put that back in this big back port back here. Now, this port, if you remember, goes to that little black box down there. This port here, we're gonna bring around and put it in this, can you guys see that? This little sensor that's in the back, there's a port on it. Plumb that into there with your new hose. That's there. All right, so now we've got this port over here on the side that's coolant. Actually, we're gonna go ahead and put our big hose back on. So this port here on the side next to your big port comes to the front port here on the bottom of your throttle body. Okay, now you've got this little hose right here. That's just gonna tie right into this small port up top. Another thing, speaking of this little port, there's another one back down here. I am going to put, I've got these little vacuum caps. I'm just gonna put one of those back there on this, and I'm going to zip tie it to make sure it doesn't come off, and forget about it. I just had to cut that back a little bit, but I've still got this plug that I'm gonna have to go back and look where it goes. Guys, this loose black one is your mass airflow sensor. So you'll wanna put that in when you get your whatever here, your filter. Let's go ahead and put our new throttle cable bracket on. All right guys, so other than putting coolant in it and burping the system, we are finished. I wanted to show you this throttle rotor. So right now I'm using the Y7 throttle cable, which is a little long. I'm pretty sure the Y8 just kind of wraps right around in here because it connects right there. Goes all the way around and right there. So pretty sure the Y8 throttle cable is a lot shorter and more ideal, but we're gonna make the Y7 work because I already bought it. So we did use the Y8 throttle rotor, which that right there is how it looks. Comes up underneath, wraps around. You do have to twist that spring like one rotation to get it placed right there. There's where the top side goes in at. So there was a little, this is the Y8 throttle body. There was like a little cap right here that I also used that holds your spring centered. So that is pretty simple. So let me quickly go over the connections here. So this top hose right here goes down and around to the black box under the intake manifold. This second port right here, that wraps all the way around and back to the valve that is loose behind the intake manifold. Don't forget on the back side down here, you have a little port. If you have an automatic intake manifold, there's a little port you need to plug. This here just went right into the top there, very simple. Let me come around. So you've got the two ports on the bottom of your throttle body next to each other. The port closest to us comes around and goes right into there for coolant. The port behind it is, I believe it's your coolant. One of them is your supply and one of them is your return. It goes to the round tube that's above the black box that is right underneath your new intake manifold. So that is going to be it for the swap. We're going to go ahead and burp the system, put coolant in it, burp the system, make sure we have no leaks, and run it a little bit. But other than that, we are finished. All right, guys, so while the Civic warms up, I'll go ahead and shoot the outro. Went successful, went great, went easy, other than the fact that I told you 3/8 hose and 1/4 inch hose. It was 3/8 hose, and then the 5 foot length needed to be 5/16 hose, not 1/4. The 1/4 will not fit. Let's see. So the parts you're gonna need are, the part I didn't mention in the beginning that you're gonna need is potentially a Y8 throttle cable if you want that. I'd get it if you have the money. I mean, they're not very expensive. And then the Y8 throttle rotor off of the Y8 throttle body. So that's gonna be it for this video, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it. I'm gonna go take it for a little drive, make sure everything's good. And then the next step is a turbo. So look out for that, tune in, and if you wanna support the channel, go ahead and like and subscribe. Thanks, guys.